People cannot see the forest for the trees. You look at all this fancy data, the blockchain data, try to analyze when do things go up and down, make the fanciest indicators possible, and you lose sight for what really matters. Every week, Glassnode brings out a newsletter, the Glassnode Insights newsletter, showing fancy charts trying to predict where Bitcoin and the altcoins, etc. go. And this recent newsletter is rather pessimistic, right? There's no activity, everything is dying, coins are just being held, not spent, there's no profit taking, but there's also no inflows whatsoever. Nothing's happening. I say this is a good thing. Nothing is happening since beginning of the year. But look at what Bitcoin did since beginning of the year. Let's have a look at some of those charts, shall we? This is the realized cap net position change. When things were dipping, you had outflows, then again some inflows. But look at this here. This is January of 2023, and the whole thing really slowed down. Nothing is going in, nothing is going out. But at the same time, year to date, the price of Bitcoin went up by 60%. Isn't that fascinating? The price went up by 60% when there's no activity. What's going on? Liquidity is drying up. Contrary to most altcoins that need a lot of hype, that need a lot of social media engagement, that need a thriving community, Bitcoin doesn't need that. Bitcoin is the store of value. Bitcoin is being dollar cost averaged. Bitcoin is simply just bought and held and is not being intended, at least nowadays, to be actively bought and sold for goods. It's mainly a store of value. And this is confirmed when we look at how many Bitcoin are held by long-term holders. When we are in a massive rally, right, when the price is shooting up, then the number of Bitcoin held by long-term holders is going down. But when the price is simply just going sideways or even going down, then look at what's happening to this orange line. It's going up and up and up. And now this orange line is at an all-time high. 14.5 million Bitcoin is being held by long-term holders, up from 11 point something million, maybe 11.5 million at the end of 2018. So there is volatility in this. This line does go up and down, but over the long term, we see a rising trend. Over the long term, Bitcoin is being held pretty much like any other asset, right? You also don't buy and sell your houses all the time. You don't trade your stock actively all the time. You don't trade your commodities like your gold all the time. You simply just buy and hold and store your wealth in this. And the more Bitcoin becomes that kind of asset, the lower the volatility potentially gets, but also the tighter the supply is, right? The more it can rise in the end by all those additional dollar cost averages. You want to be buying Bitcoin when nobody else is getting excited about this, right? You want to buy the very solid asset that you believe will still be around in 5 or 10 years when nobody is excited about it. That's when you get the cheap price. You don't want to buy the trash, right? You don't want to buy any kind of speculative asset that might not recover and hold it for 5 or 10 years. You only want to buy and hold the long-term things that will stick around. But you need to find a time when to do this. And it's always when there's no attention, because attention means an elevated price. There's a one-to-one correlation here, right? The more eyes are on a certain token, the more demand there is, the higher the price gets. A bear market like this is a chance. Not a chance for every asset, but definitely for the assets that will stick around. And Bitcoin is pretty certainly going to stay around. And so we see charts like this by Glassnode calling this the significantly depressed transfer volume. The transfer volume is depressed. In other words, nothing is going on. But again, that nothingness happens since beginning of the year, since January 2023, and the price did quite nicely. So I'm quite happy with this nothingness. This nothingness can continue as long as it wants. As long as the dollar cost averages do their thing, as long as people see Bitcoin for what it is, an advanced savings vehicle, then everything is fine. Once the Bitcoin that's being held by long-term holders goes down, and it's not not during a bull run, but it's suddenly during a sideways trading range or during a collapse, then I'd be scared as well. But as long as the number of long-term holders, as long as the capital being held by long-term holders is increasing over time when nothing is happening in the market, everything is fine. Everything couldn't be better. It is interesting though to look at charts like this because it gives us perspective, relatively speaking, historically speaking, right? This is a long-term chart starting in 2010 and we can see the quote-unquote hot supply. And we see when this is especially low, like here at the beginning of 2015 or here at the beginning of 2019. This is when we hit the bear market bottom, right? A very nice buying opportunity. And again, we are very, very low on this hot supply. And of course, who is surprised? At the same time, the number of Bitcoin being held in centralized exchanges continues to go down. That's what we want, right? As long-term holders, we don't want a lot of speculation happening with Bitcoin. We simply just want to see this in cold storage. Bitcoin should be held in places like this. Bitcoin should not be in the hands of Sam Bankman-Fried or CZ or any one of those people. The whole ethos around Bitcoin is that you can self-custody your funds. Pretty much the same way as you can with gold. You don't trust a third party, you don't trust a bank, you don't trust a centralized exchange, you simply trust yourself. So this is a very healthy trend. This orange line here going down, the number of Bitcoin on all exchanges at a 5-year low. There's really two ways to see this. On the one hand, there's no action in crypto YouTube, there's no action in crypto Twitter. All the news are now pretty boring, just about Sam Bankman-Fried and about FTX, and it's all super boring. No interesting altcoin speculation happening either. So for creators like me, it's not necessarily the best thing. But for investors that simply buy Bitcoin, it's awesome. Just continue accumulating. And don't buy the next ship coin, simply just buy the solid asset. And there's one asset that's definitely solid. I'm not going to talk about any other right in this video. If you're looking for a community of like-minded individuals, feel free to join us on Telegram. Link is down below.